Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jillian Cassell-Stiga, Director at the Make It Real Foundation, which has brought you this masterclass on project management in partnership with Davis College. Make It Real enables professionals and industry experts to give back their time and expertise to empower women around the world and to create a pathway to opportunity and career fulfillment. Our speaker today, Mirna, is the Director of Operations and Product Development at Make It Real, a leading company in the toy industry. Mirna started her career in 2018 as a project manager in the consumer goods industry in Canada. She is a PMP candidate as well as studying in the field of supply chain and operations, where she believes her project management experience and knowledge is best utilized. Mirna's main focus is to streamline, create efficiency, and achieve the best project's results. Without further ado, I'm going to pass today's session over to Mirna to get us started. Welcome.
First thing we want to start is, what is the project, right? Which I'm sure you all know about. The project is a temporary task or a temporary endeavor, or it's always going to be temporary, whether it's short-term or long-term, right? So there is an end date for it. There's always an end date for it. It's not an ongoing or a day-to-day task, which my next question to you guys, what is the ongoing day-to-day task called? That's not a project. It's what we do or what some employees do on their day-to-day. It's kind of operations, right? We call that operations versus project management. So the big difference between a project and operations is that a project has an end date, whether it's in a month from today or in a year from today or from the start of the project, versus operations is what we do every day. So in my opinion, project management helps operations, meaning if I am asked to open a factory tomorrow, or we have an owner of a factory tomorrow, it's a project. The owner asks for the factory to launch by that date, or they're aiming for the factory to start manufacturing by that date, right? So that's the end of the building of the factory. That's the end of having the machinery in. That's the end of putting the processes. That's the end of all of that on the day that it launches. And then the operation starts. The day-to-day operation starts. So that's really the difference between a project and operations. Does this make sense? Go ahead and answer or comment. Okay, I guess I'll proceed.
I believe maybe some people are still thinking, and when we reach in the middle, I'm also going to contribute. I love that, Mirna, the way you just clarify the difference between a project and operation task or a business. In most cases, you realize that most people confuse a business or an operations into a project. And then you find someone talking about a business and then they say project. And then when they want to talk about an operations, they say a project instead. So they confuse the two. So thanks for clarifying that and showing the difference.
Exactly. Thank you, Nadia. So it takes us to the very basic question for the project management. What is project management? So project management, it says here, it's the use of specific knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to deliver something of value to people. Now, in the beginning of my career, I heard a lot of comments, I don't know, maybe back in my home country or from different experienced people, that project management was or is focused on specific areas of expertise or specific backgrounds. For example, for engineers, especially construction engineers, it's a very common role to have a project management as in the construction area. However, as I spoke to more experienced people and as I got the experience myself, project management can be for everyone. It is actually for everyone, not even for just the working people. If you're a housewife, if you are preparing an event, whether it's a small birthday for someone, for your friend or for one of the family, or you're a working person, you need the project management in your life. So you can project manage everything, whether on a small scale or on a big scale. So the misconception of being a project manager is only limited to specific faculties or areas of business. It's a huge misconception. It doesn't exist. Everybody, every area in our life need a project management, whether it's working or just personal. So as an example, if you're planning a birthday party, if you're planning a graduation party, if you're planning even your groceries, that's kind of a project management. To think about your budget, you need to think about your preference in food. You need to think about your guest preference in food. You need to think about the decoration. You need to think about all of that, put all the pieces together and make it work, right? So it's really a small project. So let's get the I'm not sure if you heard that same misconception as mine, but let's put that on a side because it's not limited to anyone. It's for everybody. Okay, now the history of project management. Okay, project management was there since forever. And it was very interesting for me to read the statement because I come from Egypt and we have the pyramids. So for me to see that the statement says this is how the pyramids were built, and also Great Wall of China and many others that were created before project management becomes a well-identified and recognized role. So definitely we didn't have the Project Management Institute when the pyramids were being built or when the Great Wall of China was being built. This didn't exist, right? But still, it's in the human nature that project management was there so that they succeeded and they reached their end goal, which ultimately it was the pyramids at the time, and it was the Great Wall of China at the time, and many more after. So you could see on this chart where the years where these were all completed. And today we are in 2023. It's a well-known practice. There is a lot of certification around it, and everybody is getting to learn about it, whether it's me or you or everybody. Now, the difference, as I was talking about the operations versus project management in the very beginning, the difference between operations and project management. So as we said, the project management is temporary, unique, it has a unique output, and it's terminated when objective is achieved, meaning the factory has been built. That's the example I used in the beginning. The factory has been built, the factory has been built, the machinery are in there, and we're ready to start our operations, which takes us to the day-to-day activities, the repetitive output, and it adopts new sets of objective once achieved. So it's an ongoing, it happens every day. That's operation. Projects are not a day-to-day task. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, before I actually go to the next slide, I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think is the most important thing in project management? Alicia, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. As we found that the project management regards temporary project duties, unique output, and terminated when objective is achieved.
Mm-hmm.
You have to first having, such kind of an image of outputs, how the project will be looking like. Then you set a plan and some action steps throughout in order to achieve your main objectives.
Thank you. So to sum up what you're trying to say, is it called being organized? Is that good word to sum what you're trying to achieve? I know you've listed the breakdown, but I'd like if you were to say one word about what's the most important thing in project management. Is it to be organized? Is it to be always on time? Is it to be very good in communication? What's the most important thing in project management?
All of these activities are falling under the organizational skills. I think to be organized is a critical aspect to it.
Great answer. Thank you. Anybody else? I'll give you a little bit of time to think.
Okay, I can jump in as maybe some others are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I actually love all those that you mentioned. So good communication, organization, time management, stakeholder management. Maybe not look others to think. They can also think and give us more.
Right. Thank you, Nadia. Anybody wants to jump with a different answer? Okay. So as you all mentioned, all of that is very important. It really depends on the type of the project. You need all of those skills, but sometimes you need to be heavily invested in one of them. So let's say if you have a team that's not coming along together, that's not someone that's not very strong in communication from the team that you work with. So maybe you need to invest more yourself in communication to do that. If someone from your team is not always on time, or they need to learn more time management skills, for a little bit, you will need to be more invested in this. So until you bring everybody up to the same speed. So it really depends on the project and the team that you have and the ultimate goal. But like you said, all of those points are really the core of the project management and the project manager that manages a whole project altogether and puts everything all together. So that we will go through in details after. Now, the project management roles and responsibilities. Being a project manager means different things for different companies and industries. There's no single standard, and the position is subject to interpretation. Meaning, like what we're just saying, that different companies, when they hire the project manager, they have different expectations, right? When they put the role, it might be a standard list of roles for the project manager, but as you dive deep inside the company, as you dive deep inside the industry, you will get to learn and understand what is needed from that project manager. Sometimes companies would hire a project manager for a temporary project, meaning like a company wants to open a factory, using the same example, and they have an ultimate goal of having that factory ready by the end of the year. So the project manager contract would be for 6 months or for 1 full year. It depends on how long the project is needed for. So that might be it. And other companies and other industries might hire a project manager in-house full-time, which is also getting very popular, to have someone there for the project that happens inside the company and inside the industry. So it really depends on the need, and it depends on the industry, it depends on the company. Now, first and foremost, a project manager is a leader of the cross-functional project team. It's someone who guides the project and motivates everyone to execute well. Sometimes a project manager brings the team together, including hiring and onboarding processes. Other times, project managers are assigned to an existing team. So I'll tell you a little bit from my own experience. I started as a project manager with a team that already existed in my previous job. And I had to work with different departments. They were already in the company when I joined. As I joined new job, I didn't have the team at the time when I joined. So I went through the hiring and onboarding processes. They all have their pros and cons, and they both have really good experience to learn from, but it doesn't make it less or more. You're a project manager in this case, and you're a project manager in that case. So they're both great, they happen, and it's your skills that needs to be developed and evolved to make sure that you are capable of doing both, whether to adapt and lead and manage existing people that you didn't go through interviews and you didn't pick them yourself, or to go through the process of hiring and onboarding processes and build the process with the new team. Now, the second biggest role of the project manager is helping deliver high quality results within the planned timeframe and budget. It is really a talent and important project management skill to stay within the frames negotiated at the beginning. Just a quick question for everybody. Did anyone get involved in a project, whether it's a small or big, or plan anything, even if it's for personal, and you felt this is really a project? As you get to learn about project, did you sit there and think, oh, I did this before, it was just on a much smaller scale when I was planning this or that? Did it happen to you? Yeah, go ahead, Ndoba.
Hello everyone, let me use Veroni's machine. The one time I did a thing and I thought it is a project, it is when I was in high school and planning to develop my talent, which is playing football. So it was a project to me because I wanted to improve my skills and to join so that I can join a team which is professional in field of football. So it requires to prepare early, making some more trainings so that you can achieve your goal to become a professional player. So it was a project on me, even if the results was not somehow good. But it was my project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the project that you worked on for yourself. It's very interesting, and I'd like to hear more actually about you being a football player. That's great. So like you said, you had something to work on and you had a project to work on for yourself. And I'm sure it required more thinking from you as to what's my budget, what's my timeline, what's the skills that I need to learn. So you needed to list down your milestones to achieve that goal. So everything in project management And as a project manager, you need to have the skill. It doesn't mean that you need to understand every single thing and dive deep in all the tasks. So for example, if you are working with construction engineers, it's nice to have the background, right? But you can't be involved in specialize in the different roles of that construction project, right? Otherwise, you'll be a Superman or a Superwoman. It's great to understand as much as you can. It's great to build experience as much as you can, but also you have to focus on your main role, which is getting all these skills that the other people has, all their experiences and all of that together to bring the project to where it should be, right? So that's part of the role of the project manager. So the top 10 roles for a project manager. Conflict management. Conflict management is part of the communication management, I would say, because as you're working with different people and as you're working with different backgrounds, and you might be working with people coming from everywhere in the world, not necessarily from Canada or from Rwanda or from Nigeria. You can work with all of them, 1 from Canada, 2 from Rwanda, 3 from Nigeria, as the world now is more open and the internet is helping everybody work remotely and all of that. You can work with different cultures and backgrounds. Now, conflict management is a skill and is a role for the project manager to know and understand as part of their communication and making sure the team is working well together. So it's really helpful to work on that to maintain a healthy environment. Now, change management is to expect the unexpected. Change management is really growing nowadays, where there are specific certificate just for change management and specific exams just for change management and specific courses just for change management. So change management is really big. It helps adapt people to changes and it helps adapt the organization to the changes. I might be a very good worker. I may be very good in my job, but I'm not open to the change. If a project manager tomorrow come to me and tell me, we need to change the way you work, or we need to update the process, or we need to do this or that, I might just say no without even listening, not because I'm not good at what I'm doing, it's because the change is not small for me, even though it looks small in the overall picture of the strategy of the business. So that's more about change management. And you also, as a project manager, you have to manage that in terms of the communication with the team. And you also have to be good in change management to expect the unexpected, meaning the project, you have some expectations, you planned for some things. Things might happen. So some unexpected things might pop up. You need to be adaptable and make sure that you find ways to make things happen at the very end. Now, as we go through the role, the next one is quality management for best project outcomes. I think about it as I love food and I love cooking. So quality management for best project outcomes. There are some meals that takes 3 minutes and they come out very, very good. And some meals takes 30 minutes or 3 hours and they don't come as good. So for the best project outcomes, the quality management is very good. It's not related to time. I found that as I work with more people in different industries, they think that the quality is related to time. That's not necessary, right? You have to be efficient and still be at your best in terms of quality and deliver a good or a perfect quality project. So you have to also have the skill or the role or the responsibility of delivering a quality project that you really think you did your best in terms of quality, and you make sure that the stakeholders are okay with the quality of the project that you're delivering. Now, project closure duties. We have reports, ticking the boxes, logging data. So it's the project manager's responsibility to make sure that everything is in place. And part of that is the project closure duties. Now, when you finish the project, you have to run reports. You have to have a checklist that you went through all of that, and these are all delivered in a good quality or as expected, and logging in the data. Why do you think we need the project closure duties in general, not as a role for the project manager? Why do you think this is actually needed as we finish a project? I'm waiting for you guys. So do you have some thoughts? Why do we need project closure duties?
I think the project closure duties is needed because you must know that everything that you plan for is already accomplished. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go back 2 slides. First, thank you, Alain. I'll go back 2-3 slides. Now, if you remember, we said project management helps operations and operations helps project management. If you didn't run the reports and tick the boxes and logging data, first of all, you do these tasks for yourself and for your team and for the stakeholders in terms of a project closure frame, right? You need to make sure that the reports are there, you did what was expected, and you logged in the data. So we have the project side of it, and we also have the project management office, which is available in big companies where there's a project management office, and you report everything about your project to them, and you log in the data. Also, operations needs that from the closure of the project. Not necessarily that they're going to sit there and read your reports, but they will also benefit from that transfer of knowledge, in a sense, right? So that's also needed for the organization as much as it's needed for the frame of the project. It's also needed for the future and for the day-to-day. Not necessarily all the data needed, but it's also very beneficial to have. Okay, and then we have the role of presenting the final product and meeting expectations. When you finish the project, you will have to present it as a final product. This is your achievement. This is what the goal was a year ago when you first started from scratch, or when somebody handed over the project to you. So you want to present what was there, what happened, and the expectations that was expected from you and your team, and where you are today. So that's also a skill. And in my opinion, presentation is a very important skill to learn, not just for project managers, for everyone, to learn how to present your work, to learn how to present in front of, to be a public speaker, not necessarily in very big groups, but this is a very good skill nowadays that you need to work on. I'm working on it myself, just to know and understand presentations and how it works and what's expected and all of that. We go next to the day-to-day management of the ad hoc little tasks. Every day in the project, you will have tasks assigned to the team, and you will, even to yourself. So you will have to learn and be there and manage those day-to-day tasks in the project frame, not the day-to-day that we spoke about for operations. Also, being the middleman and mastering communication skills. Being the middleman is not only between the team that you work with and you project manage with, it's also with the stakeholders, and it's also with the executives. It's with the PMO, which is the project management office, as we said. You're the middleman for everything. You should have the full picture. You might be leading a project that has an engineer and a finance and marketing and sales. You should be able to have an overview of those 4 or 5 functional managers and know what's going on. So whenever there's a piece of information that's needed, you're the middleman, you know what's going on, and you know what's happening. Planning and monitoring execution of consistent results. If my project is a week or a year, the duration of it, there needs to be planning and there needs to be monitoring execution for consistent results. Meaning I need to plan, like one of you said, we need to plan for it, and we need to keep an eye that what we planned for is actually going and happening every day. Because if something is not happening, that means my plan, whether I need to change my plan, or it wasn't correct from the beginning, or I have a gap in my project or in my team that needs to be corrected and needs to be updated moving forward. So we need to have consistent results, and that's why planning and monitoring is needed and important. Now, leading and guiding to inspire and motivate the team. Again, that takes us to part of the communication management. The important skill in project management is to be a leader. The difference between you as a project manager and a functional manager who does a specific task is that you lead a group of people who come from different cultures, different backgrounds, and all of that. But the functional manager, they're focusing on their own area, right? Now, you need to lead by example to bring all those areas together. So it's more of a teamwork and it's more of a one project. So this is part of leading. So you lead by example and you guide and inspire and motivate the team to get to where you want to be as a project result, and as a project manager leading your team altogether. The last thing is taking responsibility and not being afraid to do it. Taking responsibility is very core for the project manager, because from the very beginning, you actually took the responsibility to be the project manager of this project. It's not necessarily when there's a problem, you take responsibility. You're taking whole responsibility in the success and in the failure. In the success, you're taking the responsibility, but you're giving the credit to the team who worked with you on the project. And you're taking responsibility on the failures too, without pointing fingers, I would say. But you take the responsibility because you're the leader to that project. So you're taking responsibility and not being afraid to do it. And again, lead by example. Any questions so far? Please go ahead, Ndoba.
Thank you. As you mentioned in the project manager roles and the responsibilities, I would like to know, is it easy to find those all qualities in a single person, or the mentioned qualities in a single person?
It's a very good question. The short answer to it is that we're all work in progress. I cannot say, I mean, God knows, I'm sure there's a lot of people that has those skills, but I cannot say that it's 100% perfect for all of those and that it's there. It might be there, I don't know. And I know a lot of great people, and I'm sure most of you, if not all, actually have all those skills. However, we're all work in progress. We always have to work on ourselves. We have to develop and evolve ourselves. And as you meet new people in every project, and as you hire a team member, you will find the challenge every time in one thing. You might have a great team member, but he lacks a piece that you need, which is, for example, communication or being on time, or I don't know, keeping an updated report. All of that you will get challenged by, and you will always be work in progress to achieve where you need to be. So if I answer that question today, I would say yes and no, right? Because it's always a work in progress. Okay. Now, as the past slide, which is this one, I would say it's more on skills. It's focused on skills and the day-to-day communication and leadership and all of that, and thought process. As we dive deep as in the project itself, there's specific tasks or specific processes or steps that we need to go through, which will be in a later slide. But we have here planning everything from execution to delivery. That's your goal. And the starting point for a project manager is to plan. And I heard that from you already, that we need to plan for everything from execution to delivery. Now, directing the team to achieve a common goal. So we all have the project end result, right? We all need the factory to be there, to exist and to work all together. So that's the common goal. You're directing, you're leading, you're bringing your team together to achieve that. Delegating work effectively. I find that I was actually being challenged by delegating when I first started being a project manager, because sometimes you think, it's easier for me to do it. So you just jump in and you do it and you finish the task. And then I realized that it's not helping me. It's not helping the team. It's not helping the project. I'm not good in everything. I cannot just assume that, and it cannot always be just my way. So we need to find a middle ground to communicate and delegate the work to people in the most efficient way and in the most effective way. This is why we have a team, and this is why the project manager is there. So delegating is a very, very important thing in project management. Now, managing the resource of time. Also, as I heard from you, you mentioned that time is very important. Now, from the beginning, as we plan a project, there needs to be logic behind it or experience behind it. Nobody can say that, okay, I'll start a project of building a factory today and I need it done in the next week. How come? It's against nature. I'm not a construction engineer, So there may be a possibility, but I don't think so. So it cannot happen in a week. Now, as you plan the time in the very beginning, you also have to manage it as you go through the project. You have to know where you are. You have to know that by this date, I need to be here. So this is a resource that you need to plan and manage very well as you go through the project. Now we have managing the deployment deliverables, which we've discussed that we manage the deliverables, that is the milestone and the end goal. This can all be considered as the deliverables. Monitoring progress and track roadblocks. This is part of the monitoring that we just discussed. As you go through your day-to-day and you monitor and you track the progress of the project, you will monitor the progress and track the roadblocks and find solution as you go through it, or raise a flag that there's something that's not going right. Conducting regular meetings. For you to do all of the above, the regular meetings are very important, because you cannot manage the resource of time if you don't know what's happening with the team. You cannot manage the deliverables if you don't know what's going on everybody's plate. You cannot monitor the progress and track the roadblocks without knowing what's going on and what's challenging the team on their day-to-day. Establishing a shared vision. This is the same meaning of having a common goal, because we have a shared vision to achieve that common goal. Managing documentation and reports, which we also discussed about. It's part of the day-to-day and it's part of the project closure. So you cannot wait until the end of the year to report and create documentation. As you work through the project and as you have milestones and goals and deliverables, there is documentation to everything and there's reports to everything. So it's part of your job to manage documentation and reports. Now, coming up with a plan B. The project is not always going to be as planned and as smooth, right? So there's always a coming up with a plan B, which we all have even on a smaller scale. I'm sure if you're planning for going to buy something and you found it very expensive, that's not up to your budget, you will come up with a plan B, because you need that thing. Whether you will go for a cheaper option, you will wait a little bit and buy it next month until you save up, that's a plan B. So you always have to be prepared with a plan B. Creating a self-governing team. Micromanagement is not helpful for the team. And it's also a growing topic now that micromanagement does not help the team and does not help the employees of a company to come up with their best self. So it's part of your leadership to create a self-governing team where they know the ultimate goal, they share the same vision as we said, and they govern themselves with your supervision and your involvement to achieve what's needed. Keeping the team close-knit, it's also part of having a shared vision, it's having a common goal. Also, it's on the communication between all the team members to be close and work together in a very efficient and effective way. Coordinating with the clients, which is the stakeholders or the company that you're working for, or sometimes you work for a construction company, for example, and your company that you work for has been hired by another company to do that project. So these are the clients in that situation. Okay, the project planning techniques. There's multiple techniques, obviously, but I chose to speak about the work breakdown structure. Who is familiar with the work breakdown structure known as WBS? Please go ahead, Admin Mirai.
Thank you. The work breakdown structure helps us to divide the task into small, manageable, so that we can conduct them easily. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirai. Yes, that's correct. So the WBS is a way to organize work into smaller, more manageable pieces. According to the Project Management Body of Knowledge, which is the PM book, WBS is a deliverable-oriented hierarchical decomposition of the work to be executed by the team. The WBS is a graphic representation of every task in the project. At the top is the final product with a line that goes down the page to a box or boxes that represent the larger tasks that lead to that completed project. Each of these boxes is then attached with line that go under it to smaller tasks. Here's a visual that makes it easier to understand. So I use the example of a press conference because I feel it's closer to our planning of like birthdays, like I said. Obviously here it's more on the more professional side than what we plan for ourselves, but it makes it easier to visualize. So the ultimate goal is on top, right? We have the planning a press conference is the ultimate goal, or is the common goal that the team should work on, right? We have the planning, we have the venue, we have the speakers, marketing, and registration. And then each of those sub goals or milestones are divided into smaller tasks, right? You cannot do a big project if you don't divide the whole task into small steps for you to visualize and create the steps for yourself. Now, it's very important for me specifically to work that way, because otherwise details will get lost. You will get lost as a person, not knowing where are you. Sometimes we find ourselves, as we plan even personal stuff, you're lost. You don't know what's next. You don't know if you did it right or wrong. You don't know if this covered everything. So it's really important to plan, and it's really important to divide the project into smaller steps, even though you think the project itself is a small one, but it's very, very helpful to have at least 5 minutes, if it's a small personal project, obviously, to sit down and write down all the baby steps or the small steps and the ultimate goal that way. Now, how to create a WBS. Define and describe a project state. It can be just a sentence or a paragraph that will describe the project vision and functions in the final stage. This breakdown structure phase is the basement of any project, and it's usually developed by the whole team. Okay, so can somebody give me an example of a project statement that they worked on or that they saw somewhere else? Yes, Elisha.
Thank you so much. I've been saying that we are coordinating the African Entrepreneurship, Future of Work Entrepreneurship Fellowship and Summit, which is scheduled to be, the summit is scheduled to be in November, but from in July, we'll be having a fellowship that will be gathering the fellows from 12 countries of Africa, so that they carry out the research, they propose about the future of work, and preparing all of related tasks, so that in the summit you'll be presenting their project, and if it is possible, linking them with VCs. If I may, briefly speaking, like that as a statement of this kind of coordination we're carrying on, that could be enough.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's actually the project statement. As I was working on the presentation, it reminded me of, we used to go to conventions as kids, right? And then when they divide us by groups, every group would have their own statement based on their own assigned tasks and assigned goals, right? So as I read this small paragraph, it reminds me of that. And again, the project statement is having the project vision and the functions in the final stage. And it's developed by the whole team. And that's why it reminded me of that, because the whole team, like you said, Elisha, is contributing to that. So that's the project statement. And it's very important to define and describe the project statement at the very beginning of the WBS. Now, the second thing is to highlight all necessary phases. After the first step is completed, it's time to fulfill the necessary phases. Perhaps you will have to divide the scope into multiple steps depending on the nature of your project. Usually it depends on the project requirements, budget, opportunities, and timeframes. Now, the phases are these, right? Planning, venue, speakers, marketing, and registration. And then this is like one big step. And then as you go through the steps, you have plan approval, budget, and coordination. I'm sure if we go in depth, the plan approval has its own steps as well. The budget has its own steps. Coordination has its own steps, all of that. So you can consider the subtasks or the sub goals as your phases. Also, just to comment on the phases, there's a gate process technique that some people use, and it's very interesting to use. So some people calls it phases, some people calls it gate, but there is an official technique that's called gate process, where gate process has the phases and it's broken down in steps. And then we go to create deliverables, which is the end results. Outline all deliverables that must be completed within every phase. Your phases should have end results. You need to achieve them before moving on to the next stage. Each deliverable should also have its statement describing goals and functions. Again, that takes us to the sub-steps where it defines the deliverables of the steps. Like in planning, you have 3 different steps or 3 different phases or 3 different gates, which leads to the end result, which is finishing the planning and then takes you up to the planning of the conference call, the conference that you need to plan for. Now, the 4th one is divide deliverables into manageable tasks, which takes us here. So we divided planning to plan approval, to budget, to coordination, and we divided venue to deciding the venue, booking venue, arranging, catering. So these are the manageable tasks. So you can go to the planning as the deliverable, and then the tasks under the planning is the manageable tasks, and also the sub steps to that. Now, assign every section. The assignment of each manageable part is the last stage of the hierarchy. A required team member will be responsible for a specific task. They will be involved in each section of work that will lead to the corresponding results. That's part of the planning your team resources and the delegation and knowing the specialty of your team members and having them contribute to the project and under one umbrella, which is that project that you guys are working on. So you assign people to the section. Someone is good in planning, someone is good in finding the venue, someone is good in doing that. So you will assign those tasks to them. Now, these are the benefits of working with the WBS. Defines and organizes the work required, provides a visual of entire scope, can be used to identify communication points, can show control points and milestones, and also can assist with resource allocation, provides a tool for team brainstorming and collaboration, which we've covered as we speak about the WBS. You have, when you plan your team, you see when you assign the tasks to the team that assist you in the resource allocation. So you see who's assigned to what in the resources that you have. And you have your milestones, your control points, the communication based on the tasks that you need to communicate with the team. And also it defines and organizes the work required, showing the ultimate goal and what are the tasks that are needed to show you or take you to that ultimate goal that was on top. So far, any questions?
Okay, as maybe we are yet to receive some other questions from the participants. I saw we have hierarchical format. I don't know if that is the right name, Mina. I don't know, should we be worried if maybe they are given tasks of preparing work breakdown structures and they are given other formats to follow, such as a tabular format or any other format? I mean, hierarchical formats, be based or the common used, or there are also other formats that, so that maybe some of us, once they meet other work breakdown structures that are having other different formats, we shouldn't get confused.
You're asking if the hierarchy of the WBS is the only way to do it, or there might be different hierarchies that can be proposed and we shouldn't be worried about it. Is that correct?
Yes, it was about different formats. Are there other different formats apart from hierarchical, so that in future, once we meet other work breakdown structures, we shouldn't get confused and wonder whether it's a work breakdown structure also.
Okay, so if I go back to WBS, I'm not sure if we're talking about the format or the technique, but there's definitely multiple techniques aside from WBS that can be used. I chose WBS because I find it clean, and also because this is what the project management, one of the techniques that the Project Management Institute recommends. So that's about WBS. About the hierarchy, it will definitely be adapted I would say, to each and every project, but the overview of it will not change. So we're going to use the same base, which is having the goal on top and then dividing it into deliverables and then the deliverables to manageable tasks and all of that. That's the overview of all the WBS techniques, and it will be adapted according to the actual project and the needs and the goals. Does this answer your question?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mina. So are there any other, I don't know how to put this. I've seen some people use tabular formats and they use tables to break down their work breakdown structure. So is that,
Yes.
is it a good approach, or maybe this is the best and more professional, like project management professionals that are yet to be?
So this is like the WBS is what's more professional and clean, I would say, and also as the other techniques. However, project management can be done in any way. I'm trying to find the right words, but I started doing project management on Excel, right? Where you just list the tasks on the side and you put the headers to those tasks, and then you put a check in front of each task, whether it's done or not done. If you look at that Excel sheet at the time I started, it's the same thing, just having them on the left-hand side and not in a chart, and not called it WBS chart, right? So, and there's multiple softwares and platforms that we can use for project management that doesn't have the chart necessarily. You can create the chart on them, but you can skip it. I just found the WBS more of a visual to go back and reference if your steps are actually going in the right way. So it can be the beginning of your project, and then you can create your own tasks and your own deliverables in a different format that suits to your team. As an example, the designers and people who are creative, they like more visuals, and sometimes they assign the deliverable by color. If it's green, then it's done. If it's pink, some people are like that, and some people are into basic text on Excel or on a Word document to visualize what their tasks are. So the technique that you prefer to use and that you decide with the team to use is up to you, but sorry, not the technique, the listing down or the breakdown of the tasks, but the starting point and the first technique should be more on the professional side and listed as the chart here shows. I'll go to my favorite part of project management, which is leadership and communication. Motivating and inspiring. Leaders develop a vision and then continually communicate that vision throughout the organization, working with the team to achieve the vision. Leaders keep their people enthusiastic in doing their work and focused on the project vision. They encourage the team members to do their best and accomplish the work with full self-satisfaction for making their contribution towards the project vision. So again, that's part of the communication that I think I was talking about throughout the whole presentation. I can't emphasize how important enough is the communication. You can be a very good project manager. You can be ticking all the boxes. But if you're not communicating it to the team, if you're not communicating it to your organization, if you're not communicating it to your clients, then it's not there, or it may be 50% there. So communication and leadership is very important because the project is your team. As you go through the project, you will use the specialization of each of the team member in that project. That's why everybody is needed there, and everybody needs to have the same vision or a shared vision and the ultimate goal. So as you work with the team, you need to be inspiring to them. You need to be motivating them. You need to put the negative thoughts and the negative attitudes to sleep or to death. The negatives shouldn't be there, because that's what kills the inspiration that you can give to your team and what they can do on their day-to-day. Positivity, motivation, inspiring the team, and being a very good leader is what brings the whole project all together and helps you achieve the end goal of the project. Team building. Leaders help the team members to help each other as they make their individual and group contribution towards achieving the project goals. It also takes us to the same sentence that I just said, that the team is your project. So you need to build the team. And when you have them, they need to be together working together and they need to help each other. If everybody is working this and not looking around and understanding how his work impacts his colleague and how his work impacts the overall goal of the project, then the team needs to be built, whether you can do it through communication, some meetings, or some team building with the help of your HR in the company, but the team needs to be all together to achieve the project goals. Negotiating and communicating. Leaders get the team members and project stakeholders to work effectively with one another, considering all parties with shared or opposed interests, with intent to compromise before reaching a team decision. Leaders create a project environment where team members can be honest and open in communicating with each other, understanding each team member's communication style and able to communicate effectively with project stakeholders. So here's actually a question that I have to all of you. If you're a project manager and you have two team members that are not really working well together, what would be your first step to do to navigate through the situation?
Thank you. Firstly, I will have to understand the both sides in order to be aware of the root cause of the issue. So after being aware of what is going on between them, that's when I can decide what to do. Before, I will have to understand them firstly before making any decision. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, for you to be able to navigate through the situation, you definitely need to understand what's going on, especially if it's related to the project itself. Now, the part that is really needed is to encourage the team members to be honest and open in communicating with each other. So we found that if the negativity still persists, meaning that I am a project manager and I have a team member that comes to me and say, hi, I am annoyed by this and that. And then I have another team member that comes in and says, hi, I'm annoyed by this and that. We need them to be honest and speak to each other, maybe in a more professional way. It depends on the relationship and it depends on the organization, but we need people to communicate together as to what's going on, why am I annoyed, and what I didn't appreciate. Because I don't think I was ever in a situation where somebody was intentionally annoying someone. It was always coming from a different background or a different communication way that may have developed that uncomfortable situation. So that's why encouraging the team members to be honest and open in communication with each other, they will understand each other better and they will understand their communication style better and able to communicate effectively with the project stakeholders and the rest of their team members. Last thing I would say is the listening and influencing. Leaders are active listeners, understanding and considering the team members' perspective before making team decisions that will affect the team. Leaders get project team members and other stakeholders to collaborate and cooperate with each other, working towards a common goal. So like you said, Nadoba, you would sit down and listen to what's in there, right? To understand the situation and the root cause. So you need to be an active listener. You can't just have someone walk in and say one statement and you make a decision like that. You need to sit and listen to your team and understand what's going on and consider their perspective. Most of the time, it might be different from your perspective. And they might be right, they might be wrong, you might be right, you might be wrong. But everybody has to contribute and everybody's perspective and input is very important. So we are all working together towards a common goal. I will stop sharing my screen. I think that's the last thing I wanted to speak about. Communication is very, very important as a project manager, as much as it's important to work with the project management techniques and skills and develop that. Communication is really, really one of the very most important skills and things to work on with your team. So that said, any questions?
All right, while that participant is formulating their question, it would be wonderful if you would talk to us a little bit about your experience becoming a project manager and how you kind of navigated your career, what you found some of the kind of obstacles or challenges that you needed to learn on the job as opposed to in your coursework, which I know you studied prior to becoming a project manager. And kind of just maybe told us a little bit about your experiences getting to where you are today.
Sure. So I started as a project manager in 2018, like you introduced me in the beginning, Jillian. And at the time, I didn't have any studies in project management. However, I had experience coming from my home country, not necessarily in project management directly, but in something related. So as I immigrated to Canada in 2016, I started my full-time job in 2018 as a project manager. I started to develop the skills, and the project management of my day-to-day started to kick into my professional career, right? So I am the type of person who likes to plan, who likes to organize, and to a certain extent, I'm a little bit boring where I don't like surprises because I like planning. So that kind of kicks into my career, where I was project managing a new item at the time where I used to work. It was a whole new item line that they were launching. So I was involved in the launch of the item, working with the graphics designers, working with the suppliers and the sourcing department, working with the accounting and finance, working with the sales. So I was the middleman, like the presentation was saying, that everybody was going to get the information that they need, and also to lead the team as to where they need to be and where the project needs to be. And we had a deadline at the time to launch that item in the market. So that's where I started as a project manager for retail. And it takes me back to the comment that I said in the beginning of the call, where I was challenged: is project management only for a specific industry? Do I need to be in construction to be a project manager? And that's when I realized, no, everything needs project management, and it's not limited to a specific industry or a career. Now, I moved from my previous company, and I'm now with Make It Real. I started as a project manager and then got promoted to a senior project manager. And now I am director of operations for product development. And I have, with the help of some team members in the projects. Now, it also takes us to that point where operations is different than project manager, which is true. I switched to a certain extent from project that has a deadline to operations, which is the day-to-day. However, I found it really, really helpful for me to understand how the project gets initiated and executed and delivered. That helped me in my operations and day-to-day, because this impacts this. So I also decided to pursue my studies. I'm getting my, hopefully I'm sitting for my exam very soon for PMP certification. So I guess that's it about me so far.
That's really helpful and wonderful. Would you give us just also a follow-up bit more background on the PMP certification and its benefits and it kind of the career opportunities or the need for a certification so that our audience might consider similarly?
Sure. So PMP is the professional certificate from the Project Management Institute. Everybody can go on Google and read more about it. It's very helpful. I found that the studies of the material of PMP is helpful in terms of the thought process. So definitely there's the techniques, there's the WBS that I was just sharing, but it also developed more logical thinking. It developed more common sense. So I really encourage, even if you're not planning to sit for the exam, which I don't encourage that you don't sit for the exam if you're taking the course. But if that's not what you want to do, go ahead and take the course. Go ahead and read the material, because it's very, very beneficial to have it, even if you decided to switch career or go for another industry or do something else. The PMP is, I found it that it's core to leadership skills, to project management skills, to develop your day-to-day and to develop your thought process. So it's, I cannot say how I encourage you guys to go there. I would really encourage that you at least try and take the course or read the material to start with. And if you found it something that you really want to pursue, sit for the exam, and I wish you all the best for that.
Thank you for that explanation. Really, it looks like we have an additional question in the chat. Nadoba says, managing diverse project stakeholder expectations can be challenging to a project manager. as stakeholders often have different priorities and perspectives. How do you handle this effectively?
Very
Great
good
question.
question. It actually takes me to something that I was emphasizing on, it's communication. So at some point, as you get approached by different stakeholders and asking for different expectations, you need to sit down, first organize and plan yourself. And write down your priorities and make your suggestion. You will have to have an input at some point because you're the project manager here. You're not just taking the task and doing it, right? So you need to sit down, organize yourself, plan. And if you find that the priorities are contradicting or that it's a lot of priorities that cannot be done, you have to think about your time resource and you have to think about your team resource. So that's something that you will need to go back to the stakeholders, as simple as, hi everyone, I have these expectations from 1 to 3. I have limited resources in 1 to 3. And I think that the best approach is to start with this priority, number 1 priority, number 2 priority, and create a timeline for those tasks. If all the priorities, in your opinion, are really all priorities, then nothing is a priority. So you really need to sit down and assess, because not everything can be a priority. And maybe you just suggest that you need longer time. I can make it for you guys, but I need longer time. I can make it, but please give me a budget to hire more people because the expectations now are higher than what we planned for or what was expected in the beginning. So it's communication again. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
Looks like Veronice and Alicia both have their hands raised.
Thank you, Mina, for this wonderful presentation. We really enjoyed this discussion as we are learning business, and we are really enjoying this project management because we have learned also. And thank you for going deep. We didn't understand, but in a project, there is like disk. There isn't a project which have any disk. So you didn't talk about the disk. That's a certain those projects we done every day. How, as a manager, how will you able to identify those disks and be able to manage them? Thank you.
No problem. So yes, I didn't speak, you're right, I didn't speak about risk management in this presentation. Also, just like change management, risk management is a growing aspect. Aside, not only from the project management perspective, it's a widely open topic or certificate or course or practice that is growing right now. So there's different techniques for risk management, and we can go through another presentation for them because risk is a big topic to talk about. However, as you we went through the plan B thought process to always have a plan B, right? As you plan at the beginning of the project, you will always see the risks that might happen. Not all of it. There's no way you can see all of it because, I mean, as you get experience, I'm sorry I said no way, but as you get experience, you will get to know better every time you go through a project, right? But as you plan, you will see some risks from the very beginning, and you will identify those risks and plan around them and how to work around them, in a sense, or avoid them. For some risks that will come in the middle of the project, that's what will take you to the plan B thought, or that's what will take you to the managing expectation thought. You will be challenged with different risks as you go through the project. So you will need to sit down and plan and organize again, and maybe change some aspects in the project with the approval of the stakeholders of that risks. So we can go through it through the different techniques in a separate presentation. I also encourage you to read on the risk management online. There's a lot of very helpful topics and articles about the risk management.
Great. I think we still have a question from Elisha.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to ask if you see, such as similarities of business management and project management could be defined as two distinctive disciplines, but they are both essential for the success of a new venture. I'm wondering how, like, a fresh entrepreneur could, plan ahead how he'll be executing the projects that are accompanied to carry out the entire business, and which are some critical aspects to considering throughout. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Lisha, I'm not sure I understood your question correctly. You were saying that the business development, meaning the operations, which is the day-to-day, versus the project management, right? And how a project manager would be successful in their ultimate project goal if they're not involved in their day-to-day? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, but on the side of like an entrepreneur, the founder, how to assigning, maybe in terms of, planning ahead, how each project will be proceeding. As a new venture starts, you can start with maybe building a business, if I may say, business plan. Then after, what will be going on? Maybe forecasting the source of the financial means. And if you're planning maybe to have like a data center, marketplace, learning, another project which will be carried out, which critical aspect, to keep in place as a fresh entrepreneur.
Okay, so again, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but if you're trying to check what are the different aspects that you can plan ahead for you to be able to move on from the project management to the day-to-day so they can be merged together at some point, it really depends on the industry and it depends on the project. So if you're going through a launching of a new project, then it's good to have the background of the operations and the day-to-day of this retail industry or of this industry. It's not necessary, it's not essential to do that, because you will develop it as you go through the project. But you will need to understand a little bit more and work on yourself on what does the sales do, what does the marketing do, what does the production do for that example of launching a product. If you are going for a project that is related to construction, especially when it's construction, you will see on LinkedIn or when there's a job description, they put in the preference that the project manager is a construction engineer or has an engineering background, so they know that this person understands what construction is all about and how it happens. Could these aspects be useful in a new venture? Both business management and project management are essential. Business management provides the overall framework for the business, while project management ensures that specific projects are completed on time, within budget, and to the required quality standards. So in a new venture, both business management and project management are essential. That's true. But is your question more that one person will perform those two tasks, will be running the business and be the project manager?
Yeah, that's what I've been asking, because mostly the young entrepreneurs starts with enough means in terms of finance. So sometimes they find themselves having a lot of tasks to care about. That's what I've been asking.
Oh, okay. So if the same person is performing both, which is common especially in new ventures, like you said, so the aspects that you will need to consider is you have to have a goal on that new venture, right? So you start with the plan of what this new company will do. If you're going for a retail company or for a construction company, you will build your own plan, and you might not have, like you said, enough finances to actually have a full team to project manage with or to lead with. So you might even find yourself being the functional manager on some tasks, depending on your area of expertise. So if you have an accounting background, you might be the person doing the accounting. And then as you transition, after you achieve that goal of the creating the new venture, as you get to your deadline of having that company established, that will help you on the operational day-to-day. So you know how you implemented the company, you know how you started, you know what was the challenges. So you will get to have your day-to-day in a more knowledgeable way. So the project kind of transitions with you to a certain extent. And that takes us to that project closure step that we were discussing, which is the reporting and all of that to achieve the day-to-day at some point. I hope that helps answer the question.
That
Okay.
does. Thank you. We have another great question in the chat, actually.
What are
Ladus asks, what are some new trends or technologies that are having an impact on the project management industry? And how can project managers adjust to take full advantage of these developments? Great
so
question.
it's a great question. For some people prefer Monday.com. I'm sure you've seen or heard about Monday.com. Some people prefer Arena. And there's also Asana that is there. And there's Trello, there's Jira, there's Microsoft. And it also depends. There's two different things. There's the project management tool, and there is the project management tools that gets implemented within an ERP as well, or communicates to an ERP. So it depends on the needs of the business. Some start with Monday because it's very visual friendly and it's very user friendly. To take full advantage of these developments, I think that the best way to do it is to start with the process itself. So you need to understand the process and what you're going to implement and the tasks that you want to achieve and the deliverables that you are going to achieve. Start with that, list them down for yourself, and then implement it on one of these softwares. I also liked when I started with Excel. Excel was helpful for me if you take some courses and watch YouTube videos that can kick you to Excel. So just sit down, list the tasks that you have, the deliverables, and the process that you wish to see. Also, the automation that you expect from the software. So if you expect that this task, once it's closed or done or finished, it moves to the second step. Some of those softwares has those automation, which is very easy to use and develop yourself. You don't need a special developer to do these basic automations for you. Definitely on more professional side, you will need some developers to more customize those.
Great. That's very helpful to identify those, kind of entry-level technologies that can get people started in better organizing projects and collaborating across teams. Do you have any kind of thoughts on kind of emerging technologies as they are coming online to aid project management as well?
Sorry, Janine, you said emerging technologies?
Yes. Are there any kind of new technologies that people should be aware of or consider starting to become more familiar with and adopting?
I would recommend that you can, for the start, to start with Monday.com as a beginner, because it has the personal use to a certain extent, which people can use and develop on there. So as a beginner, I would recommend starting with Monday.com because it's more on the visual side. And definitely all the other platforms are very useful as well, like Asana and Arena and Jira and Trello.
Thank you. Let's see if we have additional questions in the chat. Are there any other hands?
I guess we're all good.
Yes, I think we're getting to the end of this session. And so I'm going to thank you, Mirna, because this has been a very helpful, very informative session. Oh, I do see one more hand. Maybe we can squeeze in one more question from the audience, unless that was meant. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much. Just I want to appreciate you for how you sacrifice, how you come to teach us. We really enjoy it. Thank you so much. Wish always to come to teach us this project management. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the session, and I look forward to seeing you all in different sessions as well.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, I think I will simply reiterate how grateful we are for your expertise in this session, Mirna. It's been wonderful. I've learned so much myself. And I don't know, Nadia, if you have any additional thoughts or closing remarks. So I just want to thank you and Davis College as well for your partnership in this ongoing program, and as well as all of the work you do in supporting the students and getting this masterclass off the ground.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gillian. Of course, also you for your commitment and the coordination of these masterclasses, and for bringing us Mirna. Mirna, you've really given us a very interesting session. I mean, you've unpacked so much that we looked at within 3 months, and you've just given us basics, especially, I think, like I said at the beginning, From my experiences when I've been teaching project management, one of the most confusion that people used to have, they confuse an operations with a project. So people don't understand, they confuse the two. You find someone calling an operations a project, and then what is supposed to be a project is called an operations or a business. So thanks for unpacking that and for using very simple examples that resonated with the students. I also like that they were able to hear from someone within the project management industry other than me, who maybe they thought I'm just telling them theory. And then I was celebrating, and when I kept hearing you repeating exactly the same things that we've been looking at, that we looked at in the past in the course. So thank you so much, Mirna, for taking your time to prepare that engaging slides. If you don't mind, maybe you will share with us the slides so that they can continue to refer to it as their reference, just in case in the future. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nadia, and thank you to everyone. It's been a pleasure that I'm here with you all.
And I'm just going to remind everyone that we have a feedback survey. The link is in the chat. I can also email it to all of our participants just so that we can continue to improve our programs and direct master classes at what you are interested in. And again, thank you so much, Mirna. This has been wonderful. We'll get this posted for wider distribution soon. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. Thank you.
Thank you all.